Hi friends, welcome back. Today we are going to solve Codeforces problem, boys and girls. Before we start looking into the problem details, I want to mention that my channel is focused and dedicated to help people who are preparing for coding interviews and Java J2E interviews. On my channel, there are over 200 solved different varieties of coding interview questions which were previously asked by big tech companies such as Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, and many others. And those constitute important coding questions varieties such as binary search tree, graph problems, dynamic programming related coding questions, as well as BFS, DFS matrix problems, and linked list and string related different varieties of coding questions. So if you are preparing for coding interviews and Java interviews, then please subscribe to this channel now. This channel can definitely help you in your Java J2 interview preparation. So please subscribe it. So now let's go and let's look into this Codeforces problems description. There are n boys and n girls studying in a class. They should stand in a line so that boys and girls alternated there as much as possible. So this is important, so they should be alternated, right, as much as possible. So let's assume that positions in the line are indexed from left to right by numbers from 1 to n plus m. Then the number of integers 1 is between I is less than n plus m, such that positions with indexes I and I plus 1 contain different children of different genders. Positions I has girl and position I plus 1 has a boy, or vice versa, must be as large as possible. So we have to separate them as much as we can, basically. That's what the problem is saying, right? So help the children and tell them how to form the line. So what it means is we have to they will be given number of boys and number of girls, and we have to separate them as much as possible, right? So let's take a look. The input is it's single line containing n and m. So number of boys here first given, number of girls here is given, and then we have to print a line n plus m characters, so that we should separate them as much as possible. So that's what it is saying basically. So for example, if you look at this first example, right, so let me make this bigger. So there are three boys and three girls, right? So as you can see, this is one. Also they are saying that there can be multiple optimal solutions, right? So we can print any of the solution, right? So now there are three boys and three girls. So what we can do is we can make them stand like this, right? GB, so GB and GB, right? So girl boy, girl boy, girl boy, right? So no, like so we are separating them as much as possible, right? So no girls are right now standing next to each other, and no boys are standing next to each other in this case, right? Because it is possible to completely separate them. Now we will consider the second example. So let's just go on the whiteboard so I can explain this example. So now B is given as 4, means 4 boys and 2 girls. So in this case, there are three conditions generally we will consider, right? So when B is equal to G, right, means when number of boys and number of girls, if they are equal, then what we can do in this case is we can just take a string called as bg, right? Bg, we can take one string, and we will just repeat this string as many times as b, basically, right, or g, because they are equal, right? So for example, if they are equal, like b is 3 and g is 3, in this case we will just make bg and then we will do it 3 times, right? So bg, bg and bg, basically, right? So this is 3 times we can do it. So now if you look at it, we have already separated the like girls and boys as much as possible, right? Because girls are not standing next to each other and boys are not standing next to each other, as you can see here, right? So this is one condition, one case of input that we can receive, right, when boys and girls are same number. Now the second input we can receive is the one that is given to us here, right? When boys is 4, means boys is greater than girls, basically. So what in that case, how what we will do is we will just like first like put a so we will do bg as many times as possible, right? So for example, let's just first let me show you the solution for this one also. So when boys is greater than girls, right? So in that case we will just start with let's take this example, right? So now it is 4 is greater than 2, so we will start appending bg until, so let's start with 0. So let's say one I variable is there, it is 0 in the beginning, so we will start appending bg, right? Bg and again bg, so we will append it two times basically, right? And we will keep incrementing I, so now it is I is 1 and 2 basically, right? So uh, uh, and we will keep decrementing g and b basically, right? So as much as we are appending, we will append until they become like the girl variable becomes 0, right? So we from 2 it will go 1 and then it will become 0, right? At that time b will go from 4 to, it will go from 4 to 3 and 3 to 2, right? Because we have already two boys, so we will decrement this variable and we will also decrement g variable until g becomes 0, right? So now bg we appended. Now what we will do is, now we have two leftovers guys, right? Like two leftover boys basically, sorry. So because there is, we only have used two boys, now there are two boys which is we have to use here, right? So what we will do is we will just append that boys here basically, right? Whatever is remaining number of boys, so two are remaining, so we will just append bb here basically. So in this case we can separate the girls totally, right? Means they are not next to each other, but in case of boys we have separated as much as possible, right? But this last one is next to this boy, we cannot like separate them, right? And that is correct basically, right? Because they, what the problem is saying is let me show you. So so alter, see, boys and girls alternated as much as possible, it says. So it may not be possible that completely they can be alternated, but we have to make them separate as much as possible. As you can see here also in this example, bg they took, and after that, since now there are two remaining boys and girls are already there in the line, then we have to put them here basically, right? Two boys. So that's what we are doing here in this logic also. So the other last condition that we can talk about is when girls are more than boys. So let's take one example where boys, let's say b is equal to 2 here, right? B is equal to 2 and g is equal to 4, right? So g is equal to 4. So now we have two boys and four girls, right? So when g is greater than b, so again we will take our bg string, right? And we will keep appending that until boy becomes 0 basically, right? So first we appended bg here to the, we start appending to the empty string, now it became bg, we decremented this b by 1 and this g by 1, right? So now g became 3. Now again we have available boys, so again we will append the bg here. So now after we append bg here, now boy will become 0 here, right? From 1, and this will become 2. So now there are two girls which are still we can have to put it in the line, right? Basically. So now we already are done with the boys, so we have to, we have no choice but put two girls here basically in this case, right? So g and then g, correct? So this is the third example where we can separate the boys and girls as much as possible like this basically, right? So now in this case boys are separated but girls are separated like this basically, right? So this is one answer. If we take if we use another string called as gb, so bg is one possibility. If we use a gb, for example, in this case we can use gb actually, right? If girls are more. So let's take this one. So let me just go from here from the beginning. When girls are more in numbers than boys, then we should start with gb, not bg. So we will start with gb and we will again append gb here, right? And we will decrement now b by 2, so now b becomes 0 and G becomes 2, right? Because we decremented 2 because we used 2 girls here and 2 boys here in this string. So now there are still 2 girls left, right? So we have to append these girls here in this case, right? G and G basically, right? G and G. So this is the optimal solution how we can separate them. So now as you can see, boys are completely separated. This girl is separate, this girl is separate, this is separate, this is not separate because these 2 girls are standing next to each other, which we cannot separate, right? Because only 2 boys are available in this case. So these are the 3 possibilities we will do into our implementation, and I can show you like the Java implementation code now. So as you can see, boys and girls, these are given to us how many boys and girls are there. So if boys and girls are same in number, then we can either use BG or GB. Anything is okay, right? Because both will be correct actually. So I just use BG string here. So we will just keep appending it number of times, you know, the number of boys basically, right? So if in other case when boys is greater than girls, which is this case, right? Number of boys are 4 and number of girls are 2. So boys are greater than girls. So in that case, what we will do is we will loop through for loop until number of boys, right? And if girls are greater than 0, we will keep appending BG, right? And we will decrement girls here, and the for loop automatically decrement boys, right? Automatically it will decrement the boys, or basically means decrement in the sense is it increments, right? Because we don't want to uh, have more boys than what is given to us, right? So here we will decrement girls, right? So it will, for example, in this case, here, right, when boys are 4 and girls is 2, we will first keep appending BG, right, like this, BG here, and at this, after we appended 2 BG, girls will become 0 at that time, right? So once girls become 0, then we will just put B basically, right, for the remaining boys, correct? So that's what we are doing here, right? These are the remaining B's actually we put, right? These are the 2 remaining B's that we put. So this is what the logic we are using. Now the third, in the third case we have girls more than boys basically, right? So in that case we will loop through 0 to number of girls here, and we will use string GB here, right? Because we want to keep them separate, maximum separation, right? So that's why we will choose GB string here in case of girls. In case of boys we have chosen BG string, right? So we will keep appending GB until the boys become 0. For example, as you've seen here, um, so see like this GB, we will keep appending GB until boys become 0. So once boys become 0, then we will just append G basically for left over at girls which are remaining, right? So here we will use the G for remaining girls basically, right? So this is the approach to solve the problem on Codeforces boys and girls. So let's just execute this code and make sure it works. So we are getting correct answer. So let me just show you the example that we are getting here. So as you can see, we took this example. So we are getting BG, BB. So BG and BB, we are getting correct answer. So let's just take another example now, where we are having another case, right? Where, so let's just try our first case where both are equal, right? Then in that case we will just get BG, right? So as you can say, BG we are getting. So we have separated boys and girls like this. And now let's try the third case where we have a number of girls which are more than boys. So let's execute this case. So as you can see, now we are getting GB and then GG, right? So we are getting correct answer. So this is how we can optimally separate girls and boys, and this is the problem on Codeforces boys and girls. So if you are new to my channel has a playlist called as Codeforces. It has a lot of Codeforces solved problems. You can go through it, and when you are preparing for your coding interview or learning just Java concepts. Also, there is another playlist called as Leetcode and Leetcode solutions on my channel. That is really big playlist. It has over 200 solved different coding varieties of problems, and those problems were taken from interview questions asked by Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, Google, Yahoo, and many other big tech companies. and those are selective problems because they constitute important coding varieties such as graph problems, binary search tree problems, dynamic programming problems, as well as BFS DFS matrix related coding questions, and many other type of questions such as optimization problems, priority queue problems, linked list and string related coding interview questions are also discussed there. So if you are preparing for any coding interviews or any Java interviews, then this channel can definitely be helpful for you in your interview preparations. So please subscribe to the channel. Your subscription is really important for the channel because that is the way the videos can reach to more people who need help in the coding problems. They can also they can also watch the solved coding problems and understand how to approach different varieties of coding questions and what data structures of Java to use to solve different varieties of coding questions, because the goal of the channel is to help as many people as possible in their Java coding interviews and in their Java J2E interviews as well. So if you like this video, please give it a like. If you have any questions, please comment it below, and I will give you the code link in the description. You can check it from there. Share this video with your friends and colleagues, and thanks for watching the video.